Now, National Treasury has issued a 47 billion rand guarantee facility for the struggling state-owned entity Transnet to support its recovery plan and pay its debts. In a statement, Treasury says Transnet will draw down an initial amount of 22.8 billion rand. That's to deal with the immediate liquidity matters such as settling maturity debt. The company is battling operational, financial and governance challenges. The crisis at the Durban harbour and in Richards Bay is amongst its numerous problems. I'm joined now by Bonginkosi Mabaso, who's the Chief Commercial Officer of Transnet Freight Rail. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. Is this part of the recovery plan for Transnet?
Thank you, Mpho, for such a warm welcome. Yes, it is. And of course, it is something that we welcome as an organization in that it will enable the rollout of the recovery plans that we've communicated. But of course, at this stage, this having been announced today, we cannot get into the details in terms of what it entails and what it means for us. Of course, in due course, we will then be engaging to sort of provide the necessary detail to yourselves and to fellow South Africans at this stage.
So you're not able to tell us at this point how much of these funds will benefit the rail network and infrastructure, just estimating on ratio?
At this stage, we are unable to maybe get into the details of it. Of course, as I've indicated, this was announced as early as a couple of hours ago, and for that reason, there's still a bit of work on our end to sort of interpret what it means and therefore then effect a proper plan that will enable a sufficient rollout. At the moment, though, perhaps if there's one area that we are focusing on is the recent announcement on our end as well that we will be enabling additional trains through to Richards Bay, which I'm sure you would have picked up as well.
Yeah. What would a proper plan look like?
A proper plan would entail, of course, understanding the needs in terms of maintenance, which is part of what we would have submitted on our end as a requirement for planning, but of course focusing on hotspots in terms of areas that require maintenance that will enable volumes. But as I've indicated, at this stage, we will share all the details in due course. At this stage, we are sort of analyzing the response that we've received from the National Treasury. Possibly in a couple of hours, if not days, we will then be in a position to engage with a bit more detail.
In implementation efforts to decongest the ports of Richards Bay, Transnet says it's ramping up a number of locomotives available on its line. How much of an impact do you think this move will perhaps have on improving the performance of the North Corridor, which of course handles a significant chunk of Transnet Freight Rail volumes?
So this will enable close to 1 million tons of additional volumes for the coal industry via the multi-purpose terminal in Richards Bay. And of course, you will appreciate that as we've previously communicated, one of our challenges that have reduced our throughput via the port of Richards Bay would have been the shortage of locomotives along with incidents of cable theft that have really crippled our network. But that said, how we've enabled these additional trains has been through creative partnerships with some of the manufacturers in an engineering space that have been able to re-engineer some of the parts that we require for the locomotives that have been long-standing.
A lot of questions, just going back to the cash injection. I know you don't want to expand on it now, but just some questions from the critics who may be saying it's not the first time that money, a significant chunk of it, has been rolled out to assist Transnet, but many questions remain on whether there is the sufficient management, operation foresight and control that was required many years ago, and how that will come into play this time around.
I would argue that this is most certainly the first time that we've required funding at this stage. If you refer perhaps to funding that was received last year, that was specific to floods to sort of cover infrastructure rehabilitation as a result of the floods that we experienced in the KwaZulu-Natal area. So a funding of this nature would be first as it is now. But as I've indicated, a lot of details around this will follow in due course. there is a bit of work that needs to be done around that.
Very well. Thank you so much for your time. Let's perhaps leave it there for now. Bonginkosi Mabaso, Chief Commercial Officer at Transnet Freight Rail.